Hello there and welcome to my channel, Thrive the Matrix, where we have been red-pilled and we are developing and discussing coping strategies to live in reality with the controllers and the narcs in our life. Today we are going to continue with our series, I'm a Narc, Get Me Out of Here, and that's just a riff on that old reality show, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, where they had celebrities almost on a Survivor Island. And in this series, we're going to be doing a bit of background on the subject for the video, and then we're going to use the DSM-5, look at the traits of someone that may be on the spectrum for or have narcissistic personality disorder, and then based on what we know about the subject, run down the list, tally the numbers, and decide, in our very unprofessional opinion, if they could be on the spectrum for narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder. You are definitely going to want to stick around to the end of this video. We have a very interesting subject today, and for that reason, I'm going to have an extra disclaimer. So let's get the pleasantries out of the way. Again, welcome. If you like this content, please indicate that you like it. Please hit that like button. That makes sure that YouTube pushes this content out to other people who enjoy it. And when you can trust me to make educational, informative, quality, entertaining content, only then should you hit subscribe. As a disclaimer, I am not a psychiatrist, psychologist, clinician, therapist, life coach, although I am an aspiring life coach, and I'll keep you apprised on how that's going. Oh boy, I am going to need a disclaimer for today's topic. And I think you saw it in the thumbnail for the video, so I don't think you're going to be surprised. But our subject today is none other than the 45th President of the United States and head of the Trump Organization, Donald J. or Donald John Trump. Let me start off by saying that, as a disclaimer, the purpose of this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only when it comes to narcissism, not politics. So this video is not concerned with changing your politics, reaffirming your politics. The best way I can say it is, if you came into this video, and I don't know of anybody that's kind of caught on the fence with Donald Trump. I think it's either you love him or you just can't stand him. And I hope there's some peace of mind in that, in watching this video, if you do really like him, you're still going to really like him. And if you can't stand him, you're still not going to be able to stand him. So the goal is not to sway you in either way. I think he's an interesting subject. I think it makes for a good video, but it's very important to me that it's clear. I don't have any political motivations. I won't be disclosing any political ideologies I subscribe to. There's no right and wrong. I will use words like allegedly, stick to the facts as we know it based on public sources. I think we can be a bit shorter in the background because he's so larger than life, and he was our president. You tend to know the background of someone when they're the president of your country for 4 years. So we can almost, after a brief background, skip right to the DSM-5, and I'll try to provide supporting examples, or as many supporting examples as I can, as to why I think one of the criteria or all the criteria may or may not apply to Donald John Trump. So first things first, as background, Donald J. Trump was born in 1946. He grew up in the Jamaica, Queens neighborhood of New York, and his father, Fred, was in real estate. And Donald himself will say that he had a $1 million loan from his father, took his father's company, rebranded it the Trump Organization, and I think it's pretty safe to say he definitely took it next level. We know that we have Trump Tower in Midtown Manhattan, Trump Casino in Las Vegas, a couple failed but very grand in their day casinos in Atlantic City, world-class golf courses, including Bedminster, which he frequented often when he was president, and also the club and official residence for Donald Trump, Mar-a-Lago, which was originally built by and owned by the heirs for the Post cereal fortune. So that's where he calls home. So, you know, right there, it's evident that he took it from a relatively modest business to one that's, like him, larger than life. I know there's some controversy or opinion surrounding the fact that some of his businesses went into bankruptcy, and, you know, that could have been because some of them failed, in my opinion, or based on my understanding. That doesn't always mean it's being done because a business failed. It might just make the best financial sense. It may turn out that an investment didn't pan out or turn out to be what it was presumed it would be, and that's the best course of action, to kind of cut your losses and move on. Interestingly enough, I think we confuse that with personal bankruptcy. And the one thing on Wikipedia which I found interesting is that while people do criticize many of his businesses for using bankruptcy as a tool or filing for it. His assets personally definitely exceed his debts, and he has not filed personally for bankruptcy. So in 2016, he took that escalator ride down Trump Tower with his wife Melania and took to that podium to make it clear that he was going to become and was running for President of the United States. Right off the bat, he made comments in that speech that were controversial, and that really set the tone, I think, for the rest of the campaign and how people would perceive him moving forward. And there are differing opinions on both sides, but he definitely came out of the gate guns blazing. From there, he won the Republican nomination for the 2016 election, and his opponent on the Democratic side was Hillary Clinton, who won her nomination for the Democrats handily. In November of 2016, he did win the presidency. He became the first president in history without military service or without prior political experience. He was never a congressman, never a senator, a very rich private citizen who decided to run for president and won. In 2020, he was up for re-election, and he was defeated by Joe Biden. And I think we all have our opinions about the way that went down. Donald Trump, before the voting even began and through much of the campaign, tried to sound the alarms that there were some irregularities with the way that voting happened in certain states, whether or not he had concrete evidence to support that, whether it was just an opinion in counties or states he thought he would have a good chance of losing and wanted to sow seeds of doubt. Who knows? Again, we're not here to debate that. But when all is said and done, there was election night, but we really didn't know who was president until much, much later, and the votes just kind of seemed to keep trickling in. Although I don't think that necessarily indicates that there was an issue with the voting. Again, who knows? But at the end of the day, despite Donald Trump's best efforts, he was very passionate about being president, thought he deserved to be president, thought regardless of the results that he won the presidency, sought to have a bunch of lawyers and himself go out and prove that. But in the end, Joe Biden became president. So let's get into the DSM-5 and talk about our 45th president, Donald J. Trump. Before we do, I've been remiss in not making this point in previous videos, but per the DSM-5, the qualities that we've been reviewing and assigning and deciding whether or not they apply to the different subjects of the videos are made more meaningful when you consider the fact that the DSM-5 indicates that usually these criteria exist without the related qualities or accomplishments to back them up. So if someone has NPD and thinks they're superior to others, they may not have much to show for it if challenged or asked to show or prove why or if they are superior to others. It's a delusion, if that makes any sense. And so I think it's hard to talk about celebrities when we're going down the DSM-5, because by the time we talk about them and by the time we get to know them, they do have those things. So Kim Kardashian doesn't have to have fantasies of power, success, and attractiveness. She has all of those things. So I think that's where it gets a little bit tricky. So I did want to mention that. But let's dive right in. Grandiosity with expectations of superior treatment from other people. When we're talking about Donald Trump, I think the word grandiosity, in fact, well, I guess it's been used for hundreds of years, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a word that just came on the scene that it wasn't invented just because we needed a word to describe Donald Trump. He's definitely larger than life and is pretty confident in his abilities to be basically excellent at or better at everything than everyone else. And again, if you like him, you want someone in your corner that has that confidence, feels that way, and isn't afraid to jump in and enact or try to affect big change. If you don't like him, it does come across sounding a bit ridiculous, right? And it can be a turnoff when someone has that braggadocio and they're always reminding folks that they are superior and deserve superior treatment from others. So I would say he definitely has that grandiosity. Fixated on fantasies of power, success, intelligence, and attractiveness, Donald Trump will remind folks at every turn that he is a very powerful man. I always loved to see the pictures of his penthouse apartment in New York City in the Trump Tower. It screamed power and success. I mean, the entire apartment was gold. I don't know that it was solid gold, but there wasn't anything that wasn't gold or accented in gold. I mean, it just oozed power and success. We've heard Donald Trump say, and it's a fact. I'm not saying it's a fact that he is. I'm not saying that, hey, stranger things haven't happened and that he isn't. But I think he's called himself a stable genius and has reminded folks of his intelligence quite a few times. So I think that we can give him that one. Also, as far as attractiveness, we know he values that, especially in women. I think it was the Miss America or the Miss USA pageant that I think he used to own or produce. And of his wives, 2 were supermodels, one being Ivana Trump, I'm sorry, Ivanka's the daughter, and Melania Trump. And Marla Maples was not a distant third. They were all gorgeous. Donald Trump always had a beautiful woman on his arm. So as long as we've known him, we've known that he's rich, powerful, grandiose, and that he gets the best, deserves the best, and is the best. So I think we can give him that one as well. And depending on how you feel about him, that braggadocio, that flagrant display of all of those things can either give you something to live up to. Some people may say, hey, well, I want someone fighting for me that is able to do that in their life. And it can be a turn on to others, right? So regardless of where you fall on the spectrum, I think we can say he does fit that criteria. And as far as the self-perception of being unique, superior, and associated with high-status people and institutions, I'm going to use the example of the time. I think it was during one of the debates where when it came to becoming president, he should be the nominee because he alone could fix the country. Even if he did win the presidency, he couldn't just do it alone. He would have a cabinet. He would have staffers. He would need help to fix the many problems we were facing back when the 2016 election is happening and problems we're still facing today. So there should have been that humility there to say, I can fix it. I don't know about I alone can fix it. That's a pretty strong statement. And I feel like you'd need to think you're pretty unique and superior to be able to make that statement as confidently as he did. From there, needing constant admiration from others. I think he also always reminded us that he was a winner, right? And that all he ever did was win from the moment he woke up to the minute he went to bed. Excuse me. And I think he loves the attention that comes along with being Donald Trump. And if you love the attention that comes along with being you, or love attention at all, or place a high priority on getting attention, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise, it lends itself to a need for admiration from others. The one thing I think about are his rallies. Now, did tens of thousands of people go to his rallies because they thought he had something meaningful to say? And did he think he had meaningful things to say when he was there? I'm quite sure both of those things are true. But you could almost see it on his face, for better or worse. If you don't like him, he looked smug. If you do like him, it looked like he was just having a lot of fun. But you could definitely tell that he basked in the admiration of the people in those crowds, in those arenas. And I believe after the inauguration, Sean Spicer, who was his press secretary at the time, the first press briefing that was had, Donald Trump's instructions were for him to, meet with reporters and confirm the crowd size for the inauguration. You've just won the presidency. Let's get to the work of, leading for the people. I don't know that we need our first press briefing to say, hey, I had the biggest and best inauguration ever. Does it really matter? You're president of the United States. I feel like I would have, just been glad I put my hand on the Bible, made my oath, and now I could get down to business. I don't know that I would go through the trouble of making my press secretary go out and say, no, my crowds were bigger than, Obama's. I think that's another piece of evidence that he needed that admiration. He needs people to know that he is, the biggest, and that translates in the crowd sizes in his rallies, the number of people at his inauguration, and the fact that he literally made an issue of his crowd size, which is typically not the first thing that's discussed in a press briefing for a new president, but that was typically the lone topic really of the press briefing. And I think Sean Spicer said in an interview after he left the White House, he felt pretty silly having to go out and defend that or even discuss that. So I do think that, he does need admiration from others. I think he feeds off attention from others. A lot of celebrities do, but it's especially apparent, I believe, with Donald Trump, for better or worse. Moving on to a sense of entitlement for special treatment or obedience from others, I don't want to get bogged down in whether or not the election was rigged. I did say earlier in the video that, as far as I know, I don't think any of his lawyers are working, or any lawyers working on his behalf or on behalf of the Republican National, Committee, were ever able to provide in a court of law any compelling evidence to say that the voting wasn't above board. Some people would say that you couldn't get that evidence because it was rigged from the start. I do know one thing, though. He wasn't calling for a recount when he beat Hillary Clinton, and you really did get a sense whether there was illegal activity or not, whether there was tampering that put him at a disadvantage or made him lose the presidency when he would have otherwise won. He definitely had that I deserve to be president. I should still be president, even though I lost. And it's either I only lost either because there was some issue with the voting, or there's votes out there that haven't been counted. I think it's a bit entitled to to kind of stomp your feet. It's like a kid in a candy aisle, kind of like banging their fists and feet on the floor because you don't want to buy them that candy because they didn't eat their dinner. You lose an election, and I think as Americans we like to see people lose the election with grace. And I think we're not even going to get into the Capitol riot thing. And this is just an opinion. I think this is the only place I'm going to give my opinion. I think I would have accepted the laws with grace and just said, I'll be back in 4 years to fix any of the problems that happen because you get what you vote for. I don't know if that's the way he felt or that's the way people feel. I think that would, and then just ride off in a sunset. He definitely did get into the Marine One. I'm sorry, I was going to say Air Force One. With, Melania, and flew off into the sunset and went on to live as a private citizen in Mar-a-Lago. But, to have that rally that he did that day, that everything happened on the Capitol, regardless of whether he instigated it or wanted the violence, I think in his speech that I listened to, there was the fight like hell. There was, let's make this a peaceful protest. I'm not really focused on any of that because I'm not here to debate that. The thing that struck me, though, is the entitlement thinking that you are going to march to the Capitol and put pressure on your vice president to overturn or change the outcome or the results of the election. Whether or not he lost fair and square, whether or not Joe Biden won fair and square, whether or not he wanted violence, didn't want violence, whether it was supposed to be peaceful, he said fight like hell. One thing I do know is he literally went thinking that there was a possibility that Mike Pence was going to break hundreds of years of protocol and reverse the will of the people. It's hard because if there's election interference, none of us want that. We want to make sure that whoever won because that's who we voted for. But at the same time, the winner's the winner, and it's based on our vote and the American people hiring them for the job. So in going and asking for those results to be overturned, especially without anything compelling to say they should be, you run the risk of overturning the will of the people. That's a dangerous precedent. I'm not going to argue anymore about that, and I'm not here to debate what happened at the Capitol. But it is pretty entitled to think that on at the last hour, if you march hard enough and you get up to the Capitol, your vice president can just say, nope, I think we're just going to reverse the results, and you can head back to the Oval Office. We're good. Just that sense of entitlement. That's all. Moving forward, exploitative of others to achieve personal gain. And I know he's had scandals in the past. I'm actually going to give him a pass for this. Maybe in the background he did exploit others for personal gain. You could also make the argument that all politicians, so as soon as he became a politician, he did the same thing and exploited, the voters, saying whatever he had to say to get on side and get their vote and become president. I think they all do that. And maybe there were some things that happened in the Trump organization, as in any big business with any big tycoon, magnate, billionaire. I'm sure there was some exploitation, for that personal gain. I just can't think of any specific examples. And he did do some things for the country that I believe demonstrated that, he did have love of country. overzealous at times? Was he a great communicator of that? No. Did he always make the right decisions? No. I'm not here to discuss whether his policies were good, bad, or otherwise. But I do believe that, even though he sought power by becoming president, and really the only thing you can do to get more power when you're a billionaire is to be elected president, I do feel that he did have a true love of country, did want to make a positive difference, didn't always get it right. I didn't feel like he was very exploitative, or at least I can't think of any specific examples right now. If you can, put them in the comments, by all means, and we can discuss those, but we'll give him a pass for that one. Moving on, unwilling to empathize with the feelings, wishes, and needs of other people. I can't say that I look at Donald Trump as someone that is oozing empathy. I think that he had his moments where he showed some, sort of tenderness, but pretty ruthless in going after those that went after him, and pretty ruthless in being preemptive even before he was attacked. And for some of the things that he said and did to the likes of, some of the Democratic politicians, some of the other folks running for the Republican nomination, journalists like Megyn Kelly, there was a serious lack of empathy in the way that he came out swinging with some of those people. So I think it's pretty safe to say we can give him that as well. Now, should we, if we believe in ourselves, should we push back? Should we fight back? Should we, or just sit idly by and not pursue something we're passionate about? Absolutely not. But there should be a certain amount of grace, I think, that things are done with, and empathy, right? So even though you are competing to win something, people you're competing against are people, whether they're crooks, whether they're on the up and up, or who knows, but they're people and they deserve empathy. And I think there's a classy way to do things, and I think there's some of what we saw from Donald Trump, and empathy was not part of the equation when it came to him and his political foes, perceived or real or otherwise. Intensely envious of others and believe that others are equally envious of him. I think he did have a braggadocio. I think he bragged quite a bit. I think he did talk in his rallies or in his speeches about how others wish they could have done what he did, or if only that person knows they're never going to be able to do things as well as I did them. Those so and so knows that I'm the best. And so I don't think he was jealous of others, but I do think he thought that there were many people that thought he was the end all be all, and that they trade places with him in a second, whether that they would or not. And then finally, a pompous and arrogant demeanor. And I would say I don't even really need to, there's just so many examples. And again, it's hard because I think that it's never black and white. I don't even think people with MPD are always black and white. I think they can be pompous and arrogant. I think there's moments that they can be, tender and kind, although it's usually for personal gain. But I don't think, if you did a focus group and you said, I'm going to mention a list of words and I want you to let me know or put a check mark next to the ones you think apply to Donald Trump, I think pompous and arrogant would be checked off by the majority of the people that were asked to take that test. Let me know if you disagree. So again, not here to discuss whether he was a good president, bad president, what type of person he was from an ideological standpoint, or any of the world events, controversies, scandals, fallout, policies. We're just here to evaluate the personality based on the DSM and based on our assessment, and that's all it is. It's just we're just theorizing and we're just speculating. We're not making a diagnosis. He had grandiosity, fantasies of power, success, intelligence, and attractiveness, and even though if we didn't see him having those fantasies, they were always on display. Needing continual admiration from others. I think we saw that in his rallies and having to come out after inauguration and fight for how big his crowd size was. A sense of entitlement, to think that your vice president's going to overturn the election just because you decide to march up there with a bunch of supporters, for better or worse, right or wrong, is a little bit entitled. Being exploitive of others to achieve personal gain, we gave him a pass on that. Other than that, he did have that, unwilling to empathize, that thought that people were envious of him, and that, he generally was pompous and arrogant in many ways, or many times in the way he carried himself. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So out of the 9, Donald Trump, based on the examples I provided, has 8 of them. That doesn't mean he has narcissistic personality disorder, probably somewhere on the spectrum. Again, we're not diagnosing, but those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Let me know below in the comments. Please keep the comments, if I get any comments, please keep them kind, and let's keep them focused on the evaluation of our 45th president based on the DSM-5, and not devolve into a conversation about some of the controversial things that happened over those years, political ideology, why one party is right over the other, climate change, yada, 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 you know the drill. Let's just keep it focused on the topic for the video. So there you have it, folks. I will see you in the next video. I'm going to do one soon where the focus is back on us and coping, on reality outside the matrix, and we're going to continue with our series on I'm a Narc, Get Me Out of Here, Celebrity Edition. Till then, folks, and Thrivers, and hopefully subscribers, stay up.